Imagine a continent embracing a digital revolution, not just as users, but, well, as architects of their own digital destiny. That's the groundbreaking vision we're unpacking today in the deep dive.
Exactly. We're diving into the Blueprint for Data Center and Cloud for Africa,
hmm
which is a really comprehensive guide. It's designed to completely reshape the continent's digital landscape.
Yeah.
And our mission for you today is, to pull out the most impactful insights from this ambitious plan, showing how Africa is really aiming to take sovereign control of its own data.
And here's where the urgency really hits home for me. Did you know that right now, over 80% of Africa's international broadband and internet traffic, it's directed outside the continent?
80%. That's staggering.
It really is. And that fact isn't just about, data speed or cost. It's profound. It speaks volumes about digital sovereignty. It basically means the continent's data, its digital lifeblood, is hosted outside its own control. And that affects everything: national security, economic independence.
Right. It touches everything.
And this blueprint directly confronts that dependency.
Sure.
We'll also touch on why a nation like Djibouti is actually perfectly positioned to be a pilot for this kind of transformation
Ah, Djibouti. Yeah, that makes sense.
because of its geostrategic location
Yeah.
and its critical role as a hub for all those undersea cable connections.
Sea landing point. Okay.
Okay, let's unpack the sheer ambition behind Africa's digital future that's outlined in this blueprint. I mean, it's truly a monumental undertaking.
It really is. And what's fascinating here, the core objective, it's about ensuring Africa takes sovereign control of its data, not relying on infrastructure, physically located somewhere else entirely.
Right, keeping it local, keeping it African.
Exactly. And the why behind it isn't just like a tech upgrade, it's a strategic shift. The aim is to transform Africa from being mainly a consumer of technology
Which it largely has been.
into a creator of innovations, reducing that reliance on external infrastructure and, crucially, allowing them to provide high-quality digital services to their own citizens, their own businesses right there at home.
And the driver for this, it's not just ambition, is it? It feels like sheer necessity.
Oh, absolutely. Look at the demographics. Africa's population is projected to grow from, 1.4 billion now
Yeah.
to an astounding 2.5 billion by 2050.
Wow.
That kind of growth creates this urgent, undeniable need to host way more data within Africa's own borders. It's a race against time and numbers.
Okay, so how is the blueprint actually structured to tackle this massive challenge?
Well, it's cleverly structured, actually. It hits it on two main fronts. First, it's a detailed guide for the Smart Africa member states, helping them develop their own national data center and cloud policies and strategies.
Like a playbook for each country.
Exactly, a national playbook. And second, it lays out a very detailed implementation plan for establishing an African data center and cloud marketplace, continent-wide. Ah, okay. So national strategy plus a pan-African market.
Precisely. It's a dual approach.
Okay, shifting gears a bit then, let's look at the practical side. IT outsourcing. That's often the starting point for organizations thinking about digital transformation, right?
It is, and it's a big part of the blueprint's discussion, especially with the unique considerations for Africa.
So what does the blueprint say about it?
Well, first it defines the main categories, just to set the stage. You've got infrastructure management, that's the basics, like IT maintenance, hosting, server admin, network supervision.
The foundations.
Right. Then application management, functional support, maintenance, changes for specific software, like big company system.
ERPs and things like that.
Exactly. And finally, service hosting, where a provider hosts an application that you use as a service, so the client doesn't have to worry about implementing it.
Right, like cloud software.
Pretty much. Now, this immediately raises a critical question. What are the risks, especially around data localization when you outsource?
Ah, yeah, that seems key. The blueprint highlights several. There's subcontractor capacity. Basically, do your providers actually have the technical skill and, just as importantly, the financial stability to deliver reliably?
You don't want them going bust mid-contract.
Definitely not.
Mhm.
Then there's data localization. This one's particularly tricky, especially with cloud. It can be really hard to know exactly where your data is physically located, which makes it tough to meet those legal and regulatory requirements for data sovereignty within specific African nations. They all have slightly different rules.
That data localization point feels huge, especially given the whole mission of digital sovereignty.
Mm.
I mean, if your data isn't actually in your country, how sovereign are you really?
Precisely. It cuts right to the core. Another big one is vendor lock-in.
Ah, yes. The classic problem.
Right. The provider uses specific tech choices, and suddenly it's incredibly difficult or super expensive to switch providers later.
You're trapped.
Basically. Which is why the blueprint emphasizes the need for your data to be returnable in a standard open format. Think of it like trying to build a house with Lego bricks, but they only fit that one company system.
Right. You can't mix and match easily.
Exactly. And finally, shared hosting. There are risks there too. Sharing resources where one client's problems could potentially spill over and affect your services.
Okay, so those are some pretty significant risks. What does the blueprint actually recommend for doing this securely? For choosing the right providers?
Yeah, it lays out some critical elements. Providers really should have licenses from the National Regulatory Authority, licenses to operate data centers, colocation, cloud services, and even to connect to those submarine cables.
Okay, formal approvals.
Yes. Compliance with international standards is also vital. Things like TTIA, CENELEC, ISOIC, and robust cybersecurity certifications are a must. Think ISO 27001 for security management, maybe 22301 for business continuity.
Standards and certs give you some assurance.
They do. But beyond that, strong contracts are non-negotiable, along with a clear quality assurance plan. And crucially, the blueprint strongly recommends that personal data stays exclusively on servers within the African continent.
Not just a suggestion, but a core principle.
Absolutely. It's foundational to the whole vision.
Okay, that focus on keeping data in Africa brings us squarely to the physical infrastructure, the data centers themselves. The blueprint talks about their classification using tiers. Can you break that down for us?
Sure. The Uptime Institute's tier levels are basically a way to measure redundancy and availability. They go from Tier 1, which is pretty basic, non-redundant infrastructure,
Okay.
all the way up to Tier 4. That's the gold standard. Fully redundant, dual power paths, dual cooling, multiple independent electricity feeds.
Wow. Built for resilience.
Exactly. A Tier 4 aims for less than 24 minutes of downtime per year. It's all about ensuring services are almost always on.
So where does Africa stand currently with these tiers?
Well, the data from late 2022 showed 157 multi-tenant data centers. 62 were Tier 3, which is pretty good.
Okay.
16 were Tier 4, the top level. But a significant number, 79, were unclassified.
79 unclassified. That sounds like a big gap.
It is. That figure really underscores the foundational work that's needed. It means a large chunk of the continent's shared data infrastructure might not meet predictable standards for uptime or security.
So moving those unclassified centers up the tier ladder isn't just a technical fix, right? It sounds like it has broader implications.
Oh, absolutely. The challenge isn't just technical, it's also a huge human capital issue. Upgrading those 79 centers, that's a massive continent-wide upskilling opportunity.
Training people.
Exactly. Turning IT pros into architects of Africa's digital future, not just users. And the blueprint explains you can't just jump from Tier 1 to Tier 3. You have to go through Tier 2 first. It's incremental. It involves redesigning, implementing changes, rigorous testing, then getting that third-party certification. It's a big investment planning, engineering, and importantly, developing people.
Got it. So beyond the tier rating, what makes a data center actually work well day to day? What are the core operational needs?
Several critical things. High availability is obviously key, making sure resources can cover for any failure, usually through duplication.
Redundancy.
Right. Energy efficiency is also huge now, measured by the PUE index, power usage effectiveness. Closer to 1.0 is better.
Lower energy waste.
Precisely. Then you need continuous, redundant power backup generators are essential. Precisely controlled cooling systems to handle all the heat from the equipment, secure network access, and of course, robust site security, physical access controls, remote access controls, constant monitoring, warning systems. It's a complex ecosystem.
Sounds like it. And the blueprint also breaks down data centers by function.
Yeah. 5 main types. You've got organizations, data centers, private ones, built by a company just for its own use.
Okay.
Managed services data centers, where a third party leases you equipment and infrastructure and manages it for you.
Hands off for the client.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Colocation data centers, multi-tenant ones, where companies rent space to put their own hardware.
Bring your own servers.
Exactly. Cloud data centers, these are typically non-local centers where you rent infrastructure resources over the internet. And finally, edge data centers.
Edge. What's that?
These are smaller data centers placed strategically closer to the end users. The goal is to provide cloud resources and cache content with really low latency, minimal delay, crucial for things needing instant response, like maybe online gaming or IoT applications.
Makes sense. Okay, so moving from the physical buildings, let's dive into the cloud services strategy. That seems absolutely core to this Blueprint's vision for Africa. How does it define cloud computing? What characteristics does it focus on?
Right. It uses the standard NIST definition, which outlines 5 essential characteristics. But for a continent growing as fast as Africa, the blueprint really emphasizes features like rapid elasticity.
Scaling up and down easily.
Exactly. Being able to provision and release capabilities almost instantly based on demand, so it feels unlimited. And also measured service, where your usage is monitored and reported transparently.
Pay for what you use.
Precisely. These offer a fundamentally different economic model compared to buying all your own servers upfront. Huge for flexibility. The other characteristics are important too. On-demand self-service, broad network access, and resource pooling.
Okay, and within cloud, what are the different service models the Blueprint looks at? You hear terms like SaaS, PaaS, IaaS.
Yeah, those are key. SaaS is software as a service. Think of web-based software you just subscribe to and use. The provider handles everything underneath.
Like email or CRM.
Exactly. PaaS is platform as a service. This gives you everything needed to build and deploy digital services, programming languages, tools, databases, without managing the underlying servers or network.
For developers, mainly.
Largely, yes. And IaaS is infrastructure as a service. This provides the basic building blocks, virtual machines, storage, networks. You get more control here, managing the operating systems and applications yourself.
Okay, and how about deployment models? Public? Private?
Right. There's public cloud open to anyone over the internet. But as the blueprint notes, this isn't always ideal for Africa's data sovereignty goals because, well, you don't always know exactly where your data is.
That localization issue again.
Then private cloud, built exclusively for one organization. Maximum control, but also higher cost. Hybrid cloud is a mix of 2 or more, maybe some public, some private linked together. This is actually the fastest growing model globally because it offers flexibility and data portability.
Best of both worlds, potentially.
Kind of. And finally, community cloud, shared by a specific group with common needs, like maybe several government departments or research institutions.
Okay, those are the technical definitions. But let's bring it back. For a business owner listening, or maybe a government official, what's the real-world impact? What actually changes on the ground when you adopt this cloud strategy properly?
Oh, the benefits can be truly transformative. First, cost efficiency. Big one. Significantly less need for huge upfront investments in servers and buildings. You move to pay-as-you-go, often with transparent pricing. Pay for what you use.
Frees up capital.
Massively. Second, scalability and flexibility. Cloud offers practically unlimited capacity. Need more power for a marketing campaign? Scale up instantly. Campaign over. Scale back down. And you can access it from anywhere, on any device. For Africa's fast-growing markets, that agility is a game changer.
So no more guessing demand years in advance and overspending or getting caught short.
Exactly. Third, functionality and innovation. Cloud providers pour huge amounts of money into developing new features, AI services, data analytics tools, things individual organizations might never afford to build themselves.
Like getting access to a massive R&D lab.
That's a good way to put it. Fourth, energy efficiency. Those huge, optimized cloud data centers are generally way more energy efficient than lots of small individual server rooms. Helps with sustainability goals.
Good point.
And fifth, reduced investments, especially for startups. Lower initial capital needed makes it easier for new internet businesses to get off the ground, lowers the barrier at entry, reduces risk.
Okay, those benefits are compelling.
Yeah.
But surely there are risks too, right? What does the blueprint flag as potential downsides or things to manage carefully?
Absolutely, it's not without challenges. The blueprint highlights several key areas. Access control is critical. Managing who can access sensitive data, setting permissions, that needs careful handling.
Security basics.
Essential basics. Business continuity is another. You need assurance your provider will be available and have solid disaster recovery plans if something goes wrong.
What happens if their data center has an issue?
Exactly. Compliance is complex too. Adhering to data processing agreements, especially around data localization and cross-border data transfers within Africa, where rules can differ between countries. That needs careful navigation.
The regulatory patchwork.
And data classification. Knowing what data is sensitive, preventing accidental disclosure or loss, ensuring data is properly separated in shared environments, and securely destroyed when needed.
So how do organizations check providers on this stuff?
Well, looking for certifications helps accelerate the assessment. Things like SOC2 reports or ISO 27301 certification give you a degree of confidence in their processes.
Okay. So it sounds like adopting cloud isn't just flicking a switch. There's a journey involved.
Definitely. The blueprint describes a three-stage model organizations typically go through. First is considering. Maybe they have decentralized IT, apps running on servers in the office, but they're starting to see the benefits of cloud.
Dipping their toes in.
Sort of.
Yeah.
Second is initiating. This needs real executive buy-in. You build a solid business case, rethink your IT governance for the cloud era.
Getting serious about it.
Right. And third is establishing. Now you're focused on the details. Service level agreements, SLAs, figuring out what to do with existing applications. Do you just lift and shift them, rehost, tweak them for cloud, replatform, or rebuild them completely for cloud refactor?
Application rationalization.
Exactly. Plus robust change management, training people, communicating changes, and retraining your vendors or IT partners. This whole establishing phase, the blueprint notes, can easily take 2-3 years to fully embed.
2 to 3 years. Okay, that's a significant transition.
It is. It requires patience and persistence.
And guiding this whole shift is the principle of cloud first. What does that actually mean in practice?
Cloud first basically means that for any new technology investment or project, you consider cloud solutions as the default, the first option you evaluate.
Not necessarily the only option, but the starting point.
Precisely. It doesn't mean everything has to go to the cloud. Some things might not be suitable, but it shifts the mindset. You prioritize cloud unless there's a good reason not to. It's about strategically leveraging cloud's flexibility and scalability by default in a rapidly evolving digital world.
Okay, thinking about that strategic shift, choosing how to move existing stuff to the cloud, the migration strategy sounds critical.
Absolutely critical. The blueprint outlines 3 main ways. First, lift and shift, also called rehosting, mostly used for IaaS. It's basically a copy-paste job.
Simple move.
Yeah, you move existing virtual machines or servers to the cloud as is, no application changes. It's the fastest, requires the least upfront investment.
So just running your old setup on a cloud server.
Pretty much. Second is replatform. Still usually IaaS. Here you make some changes to the underlying platform, maybe upgrade the operating system or change the database to make it work better in the cloud, but the application's core function stays the same.
A bit more optimization.
Right. More complex than lift and shift, but offers better performance or cost savings. And third is refactoring, sometimes called cloudification. This is moving towards PaaS or even SaaS.
The big overhaul.
Exactly. You completely redesign or rewrite the application to take full advantage of native cloud features like auto-scaling, serverless functions, managed databases. It's the most expensive and complex upfront.
But potentially the biggest long-term benefit.
That's the idea. It gives the greatest performance optimization and agility. And the blueprint suggests that for Africa's long-term goals, refactoring or replatforming are often the most suitable strategies rather than just lifting and shifting old systems.
Interesting. Okay, what about the money side? Cloud famously shifts spending from CapEx, big upfront purchases, to OpEx, ongoing operational costs. How does that play out? And is cloud always cheaper?
That's a common misconception, that it's always cheaper. It can be, but you really need to do a thorough total cost of ownership or TCO analysis.
Look at the whole picture.
Exactly. With SaaS, it's often pay-as-you-go, and prices for raw compute and storage tend to decrease over time due to competition. That's good. But with SaaS, it's usually a subscription model per user per month, and those prices can actually increase over time as vendors add features.
Ah, okay. Different dynamics.
Very different. So the blueprint recommends using something like Gartner's framework for managing cloud spend. Plan, track, reduce, optimize, evolve. It's about continuously budgeting, monitoring your usage, finding ways to optimize costs, and linking that spending back to actual business value. It's an ongoing process, not a one-off calculation.
Makes sense. And finally, on the cloud strategy. Security and governance. We touched on risks, but can cloud actually improve security? And who's ultimately responsible?
It's a nuanced point. Cloud computing can improve security in some ways. Providers often have huge expertise and resources dedicated to security, especially physical security of the data centers, which might be better than what an individual organization can manage.
Economies of scale in security.
Right. However, the organization using the CloudU remains ultimately responsible for the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your data within that cloud environment. The provider manages the security of the cloud. You manage security in the cloud.
Shared responsibility model.
Exactly. So strong governance structures within your organization are absolutely essential. You need oversight for the cloud strategy, clear policies, and ways to coordinate effectively with your providers. And critically, the blueprint highlights the need for an exit strategy.
Planning for divorce before you get married.
Sort of. You need to ensure you can get your data back in a standard, reusable format if you ever need to switch providers. This data portability is key to avoiding that vendor lock-in we talked about. Ultimately, you, the organization, are the data controller. You're responsible for ensuring it's processed and protected properly wherever it sits.
Got it. Okay, let's unpack what sounds like a real game changer, something that ties a lot of this together. The African data centers and cloud marketplace. What is this thing?
Yeah, this is really ambitious and potentially transformative. What's fascinating here is the vision. Creating a kind of cloud broker that establishes a sovereign cloud specifically for Africa and markets it through a single unified online channel.
A one-stop shop for African cloud.
Pretty much. The goal is to rapidly make high-quality data center and cloud services easily available to African organizations, to completely change how IT is procured and really push an African data centers and cloud-first policy, encouraging long-term data hosting within the continent. It's about building digital self-determination at scale.
So how would this marketplace actually be structured? Who runs it?
The plan is for it to be an independent international public company. African states would be the shareholders. But it wouldn't build everything itself. It would rely on the existing ecosystem of African data center and cloud providers.
Leveraging what's already there.
Exactly. Its creation is based on 7 pillars. Things like establishing a data centers and cloud quality label or certification.
Okay, like a seal of approval.
Right. Setting up the marketplace company itself, building a user-friendly online portal, defining clear governing processes, and importantly, implementing financial, environmental, and social incentives to encourage participation, all driving towards that African data centers and cloud-first principle.
What kinds of services would you actually be able to buy through this marketplace?
It aims to be pretty comprehensive. The catalog would include IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, the core cloud services we discussed, plus colocation for organizations wanting to host their own gear in a certified facility, and managed services.
So a broad range.
Yeah, and they even envision adding things like network as a service, not in communication as a service, later on, as the marketplace matures, really broadening the digital toolkit available.
Okay, building a continent-wide marketplace sounds incredibly complex. How does the blueprint suggest actually implementing this? You can't just launch it everywhere at once, surely.
No, definitely not. It outlines a very structured, gradual approach over several years. It has 2 distinct phases. First, a pilot phase.
Testing the waters.
Exactly. Focuses on testing a minimum viable product, an MVP, with a limited scope. Initially, probably just co-location and basic IaaS services, maybe in a cluster of a few countries.
Okay.
The objective here is purely to assess feasibility and viability in a controlled way. They'd implement a new procurement process so pilot customers can actually order services through this new marketplace catalog. It's about proving the concept works before scaling.
Makes sense. And assuming the pilot is successful.
Then comes the target phase. This is where they aim to scale up and generalize the marketplace, expand to a much larger user base across more countries, and bring in that broader range of services, PaaS, SaaS, NaaS, CaaS, operating at a regional and eventually continental level.
Phased rollout.
Right. And both phases are broken down further. 3 interconnected stages: prerequisite preparation, getting things ready; marketplace components setup, building the tech and processes; and marketplace execution, actually running it. And guiding all this are 6 key streams: regulatory, financial, organizational and commercial, operations and business, technical, and overall steering assistance change management. It's meticulously planned.
Can you give an example of one of those prerequisites, something that absolutely needs to be sorted before the pilot can even start?
Sure. Take the regulatory stream. Before the pilot, projects would include things like actively promoting the adoption of that African data centers and cloud-first strategy by the pilot countries, developing the detailed regulatory frameworks needed, trying to harmonize policies across borders so it's easier to operate.
Laying the legal groundwork.
Exactly. Or on the financial stream, projects would involve setting up those incentive structures we mentioned, financial incentives, maybe tax breaks, environmental preferences, social preferences for the countries involved, for the cloud providers, for the telcos. It's all about creating the right ecosystem and making it attractive for everyone to participate right from the start.
Okay, this is clearly a massive technical, financial, and regulatory undertaking. But what about the human side? The governance. How do you ensure something this huge actually succeeds and doesn't just, stall?
You're absolutely right to focus on that. The governance and human factors are paramount. A robust governance framework is, frankly, non-negotiable for a project this transformative.
So what does that look like in the blueprint?
It proposes a really well-defined structure. You'd have a high-level project steering committee, probably chaired by a government minister from a lead country, providing strategic direction and oversight.
Top-level guidance.
Yes. Then, a central project management office, a PMO. Its job is monitoring progress across all the streams, coordinating activities, managing risks centrally, keeping everything on track.
The operational hub?
Precisely. And under that, specific PMO streams focusing on each key area, like technical, financial, etc. Plus, a resource pool of skilled people who can be assigned to different tasks as needed. The whole structure is designed for continuous improvement, ensuring compliance with regulations like data protection and keeping all the different stakeholders engaged.
But even with great governance, big changes like this always face resistance, right? People get comfortable with the old ways. How does the blueprint tackle that human element of change?
That's where the change management plan comes in. It's explicitly designed to minimize resistance and actively build support.
Yeah.
The blueprint acknowledges that HR risks related to people is often the most critical risk to a project's success.
People are key.
Always. So the plan has 3 phases. First, analyzing capacity. This means diagnosing where resistance might come from, understanding the concerns, and identifying the different players who's enthusiastic, who's neutral, who might be actively negative or skeptical.
Knowing your audience, essentially.
Exactly. Second, implementing levers. Based on that analysis, you deploy specific actions. A clear communication strategy is vital, constantly explaining the why, the purpose, the benefits. Targeted training is crucial to give people the new skills they'll need. And ongoing support, establishing helpful relationships, providing resources, addressing concerns directly.
Communication, training, support.
Right.
The core pillars.
Right. And third, measuring results. You need to track if it's working. Conducting satisfaction surveys, looking at indicators like how many people are actively using the new systems, mobilization rates, even just keeping an ear to the ground through informal exchanges to gauge acceptance and involvement.
Closing the loop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, final piece then. Keeping everyone informed. Suppliers, customers, internal teams. How do they make sure everyone knows what's going on throughout this huge multi-year shift?
A comprehensive awareness and communication strategy is flagged as absolutely crucial, and it has to be tailored. Different messages for different groups and different approaches for the pilot versus the target phase.
Makes sense. So what does that look like?
Well, for suppliers, the data center and cloud providers, the communication needs to emphasize why the marketplace is important for them, promote adoption of that quality label, provide training on how to use the portal, and maybe support them in upgrading their infrastructure to meet the standards.
Helping them get ready.
Exactly. For customers, businesses, government agencies, the communication needs to clearly highlight the benefits. Why use this marketplace? What does the label mean? They'll need training on the portal, the new purchasing process, and clear information about the services available.
Making it easy for them to adopt.
Right. And don't forget the internal entities, the actual teams running the marketplace organization. They need extensive internal communication about the project's phases, its objectives, their specific roles. Plus, lots of training for them on how to manage the marketplace systems and processes effectively. It's got to be a full-spectrum, continuous communication effort. Because ultimately, successful digital transformation like this, it's just as much about the people as it is about the technology.
Wow. We've really covered a lot of ground there. We've navigated this ambitious blueprint for data center and cloud for Africa, all the way from its really compelling vision for data sovereignty down to the nitty-gritty details of data center tiers, different cloud migration strategies, and that whole comprehensive plan for the African marketplace.
It's quite something, and it's important to remember this isn't just some dry technical document. It really is a strategic roadmap for an entire continent.
Yeah.
The aim is genuinely to unlock unprecedented economic growth to foster a whole new wave of homegrown innovation and ensure much deeper digital inclusion for potentially billions of people. It shows this profound commitment to self-reliance in, well, what's arguably become the most valuable resource of the 21st century: data.
Absolutely. So as we wrap up, here's something for you, our listener, to think about. What stands out to you about how this blueprint aims to fundamentally shift the global digital landscape? How might it truly position Africa not just as a consumer of digital services, but as a sovereign